All right, calling the meeting of the RTM Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee to order. It's January 14th, and it's 7:33. So in attendance, Mike, do you have the official attendance, or would you like me to state it out loud for the recording?
It's the clerk's supposed to, for these meetings, the clerk's supposed to keep the attendance, not the meeting manager, but I can read off who I have.
That'd be great.
Linda,
Missing.
I have Linda, Amy, Steve is a guest, Liz, Carolyn, Amy, Susan, Reed, Martha.
Martha?
That's me.
That's Caroline.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Caroline.
Oh,
Caroline Less. Okay. All right.
We did have someone join, but I don't know who that is. Oh, Jen Mueller.
Jen Mueller.
Okay. Terrific. All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. We have just minutes to approve from our initial meeting from November. And then we are going to welcome our guest attendee, Steve Olvani, the chair of Planning and Zoning. And he's going to give us an update on all things planning and zoning in Darien. And there's, quite a few things. And I have an opening for a question and answer. But before we get to that, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 23rd, 2020?
So moved.
So, okay. And who is that?
Mike.
Mike, okay. And then second?
Second, Susan.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I do believe we have anybody abstaining? Nope. And nobody against? All right. Okay, so those minutes are approved as of today. All right. With that, I am going to turn it over to Steve. Is your mic on, Steve?
Steve, you're muted.
Yep, there you go. It is now.
There you go. Terrific. Steve, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick overview of, the usual suspects of the projects that are the big developments that are in Darien, hitting up, where we are on, status updates for those. And however you want to run it, do you want us to ask questions as we go, or you to give us a quick summary, and then we'll do Q&A at the end?
I could do it either way. There's a couple, I wrote down a list of 5 or 8 things to talk about. Okay. I could go through quick. If you want to do questions in the middle, that's fine. If you want to use the Q&A to the end. And I kind of hate leaving your questions to the end because then you forget. But
okay, I mean, well, I'll just moderate the group to keep moving if I feel we're getting down a rabbit hole. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys again, Amy, and for inviting me.
Yeah.
I do like to be able to speak to your group and the RTM and the town as a whole. If it's a check-in policy on me, if we're doing a good job, just something we're missing, it's something you want. So I'm going to get right into it. And this is one of the first kind of questions that I came up with. I was in front of you guys kind of sort of on the town hall speech, on the town of a town address. And I just want to know, did you guys like that town of a town address? Was it something different this year? I want to know if it was informative, if you liked it. And then a back end question is going to be, what do you want to hear for next year if I'm reelected or anybody else is reelected? Because it's kind of, the speech is written every single year and it kind of gets written by town hall. Except we as chairman have the ability to change whatever we want. But if there's something that you guys want or don't want or liked it or didn't like it, I'd like that feedback myself.
Okay.
The next thing is I do have every week we have an OPC meeting with the Operations and Planning Committee, which is the Board of Selectmen, Jamie Stevenson, and then the P&Z and the Board of Education, and then Seth from the RTM there. So that meeting was this morning. I just want to give you a couple things that are on our plate right now. One of the big items that's on our plate right now, and I can talk about certain things, I can't talk about everything, but
Okay.
this 11 application is has been ongoing since July of last summer. I think it actually started in July or August. It was filed. Our next meeting on the 7-11 application for the P&Z is going to be next Tuesday, not this upcoming Tuesday, January 26th. That's probably going to be solely focused on traffic reports in the legal traffic authority from the town of Darien. The meeting prior to that, so everybody knows, there's one on January 20th, which is Inauguration Day, which is next Wednesday. That's a ZBA meeting, a Zoning Board of Appeals. There's 2 pieces of application that need to go through the ZBA. It has to get approved. So everyone's welcome to attend our meeting on the 26th, or also attend the January 20th to keep abreast of it. I know there's people in all kinds of districts on your committee, and everybody has a say. And I think we had a probably 2.5-hour meeting the last go around for public comment, and I think there were about 30 people in the room on that one. The other upcoming application that we have that you guys will see, you'll see at some point in time, BMW, which is on the Post Road near Whole Foods, or next door to Whole Foods, have according to BMW International, every 10 or 15 years, dealerships have to get renovated to their newest, latest, and greatest. Every car company out there does that. This is now BMW's time. So BMW has got an application that's in right now that they have some plans. They want to take down a building, build a new building, make it more efficient, and bring it up to standard. That application is probably going to start, it's scheduled for February, and it's probably going to go on for a few nights. The other thing that the P&Z department is doing, and the P&Z commission is doing, last year there was some bills that were floated out there in the up in Hartford. There was specifically 3 of them that were active or online as of October 1st, 2020. Those bills really relate to housing around the state. For lack of a better word, they want to soften what we call single-family housing zoning in the state of Connecticut, and do away with it in a large part. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's kind of it. There's about 10 points in there. Those bills, did not make the legislative session last go around. They're probably going to be on the docket for the beginning of 2021. So the planning and zoning staff, myself, other people are really monitoring what's going on up in Hartford relative to that, because it does have definite implications to the town of Darien. There's about 10 initiatives that were in that bill most recently. I'm on a small, I don't know if you call it ad hoc committee, we call it the Council of Chairs. There's about 6 or 7 of the Southwestern Connecticut chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commissions, which includes myself, Greenwich New Canaan, Westport Wilton, Ridgefield. We've gotten together for at certain times to talk about these bills and how they affect our town. It's not really to exclude Norwalk or Stamford, but those are cities that have different aspects versus small towns. That committee, or people that are on that group of people, have had meetings with state legislators and people that are drafting these bills to get input, because in all honesty, none of those senators are on that came to us. No one's ever called me. So when we found out about it, we went to them. Ridgefield wrote a really long letter to their representatives. And in our town, I probably told you this once already, we did develop a subcommittee, but there was a meeting last Tuesday at like 4:00 in the afternoon, where some people on that Council of Chairs committee talked to about 14 legislators from Hartford and went through some of the things on there. Westcog's involved, and also it's called CCM, which is Connecticut Council of Municipalities. They're involved in that also, talking to the people that are drafting those bills. So that's something for you guys to watch, pay attention to. I don't know how many people. I really care mostly about local politics and local actions in Darien, but what happens up in the State House in Connecticut also does affect us.
Do you have a timeline of when those things are going to be heard at the state level? It just
Nah.
feels like it's a black box.
I've asked that question a bunch of times, Amy. The answer that comes back to me is every year at the beginning of a calendar year, when the new people get sworn in, there's, for argument's sake, and I think I'm not wrong, there's about 500 bills. They went down to, 200 bills. And then I think there's 2 or 3 sessions or 3 sessions where the first set of bills go in the first session and the next set of bills go in the next session, and they debate it out. There's no timeline that I know of. I've asked some of our state representatives, first section, last section. I mean, some of the things you're talking about are like, legalizing marijuana and items such as that in taxes. I don't know if that goes in front of this or behind this. I don't know where it goes. But when it happened with regionalizations of the schools, I remember Tara Achman, she had to go up to Hartford, or wanted to go up to Hartford, and testified in one of the public hearings. I want to make sure if that is the case, and I say the hearings testimony is accepted on, February 14th, that we're ready. And someone from the town of Darien is going to speak on it. It may not be, the first set. It could be get pushed back to September. I don't know. I don't know how it works up there. Another thing that we did this year is just recently I put together a thing which we call the Planning and Zoning Commission Chairman Initiatives for 2021. Some of these items that are on our initiatives list relate to what the State House is asking relative to the zoning changes in town. Some of them have nothing to do with it, and some of the things we've been talking about for a long time. One of the items that we have on our list that's come up a lot, and I've spoken to some people about it, and I think I actually spoke about it, was what they call accessory dwelling units. There's a lot of times we get a request from someone that puts a pool house at their home or as a brand new garage, or builds a new house, and they want to put a kitchen or a bedroom inside that building or inside that structure. That's actually called an accessory dwelling unit by code. They're illegal in the town of Darien. You're not allowed to have 2 homes on one piece of property. A lot of times it does happen when someone's constructing a new house, when there's an existing house on there. You have to knock down the full house before you can build the new house, and you can't have 2 kitchens on the same piece of land. That application just came in front of us. That is something the people that are putting those bills that we're talking about think is a great idea. In the town of Greenwich, I think there's maybe 100 in that entire town, and the entire town I think is like 30,000 housing units, some maybe 16,000 housing units, some big number. The idea from the people that are pushing this stuff in the State House is that those accessory dwelling units can be affordable apartments for people that want to live there. So, if you have a nanny or a grandmother, an in-law, they can live in your accessory dwelling unit. I personally don't see it that way. I think it's going to be, maybe my college kid would live there. Maybe, Amy's daughter, when she comes back from college, would live above my garage, which is nice. And maybe my mother-in-law would live there. But I don't really see them being rented out to other people. I may be wrong. That's what people want. The problem with that is from our perspective is it creates more housing units in town. And if you remember, Darien's supposed to have a 10% affordable housing component. And if they don't have 10% affordable housing component, then you're subject to the 830G application. They want those to be affordable units, but if you're putting more units in town and you're not changing the numbers, you're actually going away from where you were versus making it better. One of the other things that's also on our list is commissioner training. We've done this for years in our town. where I got trained as a commissioner and go up to either Yukon or Hamden and take a class. We're going to do more commissioner training this year. That's something the people that drafted the bills also suggested, which I think is a really good idea. We've always done it, but our commissioner, that is also a budget line item, which can get expensive. But Jeremy Ginsburg signed us up already to take a class, and it ends up being online. It's $40 a person, and we have 6 people, so it's only going to cost the town $240. It's not like it's a big number. Me personally, I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of Connecticut, a licensed real estate broker, appraiser in the state of Connecticut, also New York for both licenses. By law, I have to take, and Amy, check me if I'm wrong, we have to take 16 hours? Is it 16 hours for 2 years?
Every 2, yeah.
So it's not an unreasonable request, and it's something that I do. And fair housing is one of the required courses I think we all take,
Yeah.
a law course. So that's something that the state wants us to do, and we want to do it, and we are doing it. Another item that's out there that we're looking at again, not every town in Connecticut has inclusionary housing. Darien already does have inclusionary housing. The state mandate for inclusionary housing is 10%. Darien, if you want to build a new unit, it has to be, you have to have a new project, and if it's over 4 units, you have to have 12% affordable housing. We may look at that number again. If you remember my speech in the state of the town, John Vaccaro is building a new building at the top of Rings End Road, which is, the address is, I think it's 1777 or 1077. No, it's not right.
Right across from me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's by Roost and by Freight's Liquor and Freight's Store. That building is going to have 1 affordable housing unit in it because of the way the math works. That thing's 20% affordable because it's 1 unit out of 6 or 1 unit out of 5. So it's 20%. We changed our number from 12 to a different number. It really doesn't move the dial that much, but we might get a couple of units here or there, and it bodes well. It bodes well for us and to be able to diversify our housing. Another item that's going to come across our desk this year and come across statewide is 5G. 5G is coming to the state of Connecticut. It's also to come to the town of Darien. We want to be prepared for that because there's a visual aspect to 5G. You've seen on the parkways and the highways when you have those big, tall, we have it at our transfer station. You see those big, tall antennas that have a bunch of waves on top. That's kind of sort of what we're talking about. So we have to be prepared for that. There's a piece of the state government called the Siting Council. We have the Siting Council allows you or wants you to put up a cell tower in your backyard. They have to approve it. There was one that was very controversial that was done in New Canaan. We did have one that was going to be controversial in Darien over at Oxford Riding Club a while ago that eventually got pulled. And the lawyers on that were AT&T and AT&T's lawyer. I don't know much about much, but I got to believe AT&T's got a lot of money. It's got a lot of lawyers that know really good stuff. Eventually they pulled it. I don't know if it's because Oxridge Riding Club wanted them to pull it or they didn't think they would get through, but that is something that's going to come to the town of Darien. So people who wanted.
Steve had the mini towers, when we put in the street lights, in the top of every new street light, there is a place for a mini 5G tower, unless they've moved away from that technology in the last 3 years.
That was definitely a plan. And I remember at one point in time, and it's a little bit, Jamie Stevenson floated the idea of us buying all those telephone poles on the post road so we could do what we wanted with them. I don't really know how that works, but I don't know if they're going to wire those for 5G or where they're going to go or what these things look like, but it's something that's on our initiatives list for 2021 to make sure we're in front of it.
But when Ed bought those, he anticipated that to have that space in the top of the streetlights.
Yeah, because they were like, if you look at them in other towns, you can see them, But you got to remember the town of Darien, I can get into a little bit later. Now let's flip around a little bit. In the fourth quarter of this year, is this fourth quarter? Yes, fourth quarter of this year, we looked at about 24 planning and zoning applications. So the town looks at about 100 a year. We have 30 meetings a year. So you're looking at 30 applications. You're looking at 3 applications a night. That's a lot of workload in just applications. So we also have to find the time to do these other things that are what I'm calling initiatives and things that we have to be proactive and get in front of. So it definitely puts a lot on our list. But the 5G thing, it came across our desk last year. We studied it a little bit, and some people looked at it, but it kind of got pushed aside because of other things. But we're going to look at it again next year.
Okay.
What else did I have on my list? Let's switch to the 3 big projects. The 3 big projects we have in town, again, we've talked about it a bunch of times, is the federal project where the old Stop and Shop was, and is now just really Walgreens, the Corbin District project, which is downtown, and the Palmer's project. We'll start with federal first. As you can see, the 4 walls and the building for the new Walgreens is up and running. The rooftop parking is already there. That's the first piece of the puzzle. Walgreens, I think that's supposed to be open probably in the summer or the fall, where Walgreens will move from the building that's on the left to the building that's on the right. Then they'll knock down the Walgreens and we'll start in earnest. The height that you see that is on West Avenue, if you go down West Avenue, that is the height of the building. What's on top of the building is rooftop parking. They're building a structure there now, which is probably a canopy and some stairs and whatnot. But to get to that rooftop parking in Walgreens, there's going to be a driveway that goes around Equinox, come up to the backside of Equinox to the rooftop parking that's above Walgreens. That is also going to be the first level of the apartment building, and that go from the top of Walgreens all the way to the corner. So that's what it's going to look like. I don't have the numbers with me. I apologize, but we had a long conversation with the head development person that works at Federal, and they had their dates of when those apartments are going to come online. The one thing I was trying to hint to her to do was to try to line up with the opening of her building and the opening of Oxridge. And I think we're off by about 6 months. I think one comes first, but if you have more kids that are going to be in that new building and you have more capacity at Oxridge, if they lined up at the same exact time, that would be great. But it will be close. Those 2 items will open at the same time. With regards to the Baywater property for the Corbin District, Phase 1, which is really called Phase 1A, is about to start imminently. The financing is pretty much taken care of. They already rerouted the river. The river was open and closed. All the tenants that are inside the Tibbetts building and Mathnasium and the karate guy and Al Tibbetts' law firm, all those tenants have new homes. We approved last night the moving of Mathnasium out of there. We approved the movement of the martial arts guy out of there. So those buildings and the gas station are going to be demoed imminently. Probably, I'm thinking it's February or March is what I was last told. And you're going to start to see the first new buildings go up there. There's 3 separate buildings on the left side of Corbin Drive that are going to be built, 3 in a row with spaces in the middle, and that's how you're going to get into the parking lot off of Corbin Drive. Once those buildings are built and some tenants move over, like the Toy Man's going to move from the left side of the street to the right side of the street, and Shoes and More and those guys will move over. Once that happens, then they can knock down the buildings on the other side. With regards to Palmer's, which is the 3rd big project, I honestly really don't have an update on that one. They lost their financing at the beginning of COVID. I'm told through business channels and people that are in the know that they're still trying to get more construction financing. That's a market-driven issue that we don't really control. There's been plenty of people complaining about the politeness of that. It's really our purview. But we just wish them well, that they get it back together, get it back on track. But that one I really don't have too much of an answer for. What else did I want to talk about? The legislators, we talked about that. One other thing I do want to just to say, I think it's kind of nice. Every quarter, the Planning and Zoning Commission puts together a thing they call the quarterly report, and they kind of rank themselves in terms of productivity and whatnot and how they're doing. And I've never honestly ever heard a complaint. But what they do for themselves is, if you put an application in, how long does it take to get an answer? And they put timelines on themselves, like this should take 4 days, this should take 8 days, this should take 2 weeks. Their goal is to make every application meet their timeline with a 45% goal, where some applications take longer, some take shorter. Based upon the metrics they gave us, they're at like a 56 completion date. So they're exceeding their own application. And that's really credit to the staff that does work in Town Hall and the review work that they do. And I think that's something that's great. I've never really gotten a complaint that said, oh, it took me a month and a half to get a permit, to do something in my backyard. It does get done pretty quickly. One of the last things I'm going to do is make a plug for the Planning and Zoning Commission and all the town boards. When I was younger, I guess I can't say when I was a kid, I was on PZ&H, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I went from PZ&H to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and from the Zoning Board of Appeals to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I call it, the varsity. But what I'm trying to say is that this year is an election year. There's going to be a Democratic seat open up and 2 Republican seats open up, including myself. I'm up for re-election. So if anybody in your committee that wants to get more involved in town, some people do move around, and someone could go from, the Zoning Board of Appeals or Architecture Review Board to a different board. But if you want to get involved as either a Democrat or as a Republican or as an unaffiliated, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to other people. You can reach out to your own party heads. And if you're unaffiliated, you can reach out to either party. It doesn't really matter. But we're always looking for volunteers and people that are active. If you guys are on PZ&H, it means you're active and you care about our town. And we care about it too. And it's better to start someplace like where you guys are watching this stuff and move up, in my opinion. That's what I did. That's what a lot of people did. But we're always open for new people. So that's kind of the notes that I had. So if you have any ideas about speeches or questions or next year or this year, I'm all ears. Thank you.
This is Amy Chickle. Could you give a brief update on where Oxford School is at right now?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That is on my list. I apologize. Oxford School. The staff have inspected the erosion controls at Oxford School, both in late December and in early January. Site work is going on there. I think the demo is imminent of what they're going to do in certain aspects. There's a ton of site work that has to happen. And what I do know they have to do is, one of the most expensive and the biggest things in that is the water detention pond that's on the bottom of the hill, right? So they're going to build basically a bathtub and put a field on top of that thing. They have to build a temporary stormwater detention pond on the site before they really get going. That is the first thing to do, but they're ready to go. They've got everything online according to, I was in a meeting yesterday with Kip Kuntz, under budget so far, and that thing is, they say they're a couple months behind. I honestly really don't think they are, but they wanted to start earlier, but that's everything from our end is going great. I think the last thing we're checking was the fixed cost contract. There was signing that was the next item they had to do. Did I miss anything else on here? No, that was it. Okay, that's what I know about Oxford.
Okay.
Steve,
And-
it's Liz. Could I missed that piece where there was some linkage between Oxridge and the units they were building off West Ave? What was that about?
That's kind of, it's really just my wish list.
Yeah.
There's the question out there when you build more housing, and they talked about it going way back when they built Avalon, like there's going to be a ton of kids come in, and same with Kent said there's going to be a ton of kids come in. You got to remember we're building 116 units at one spot and 100 units at another spot. There's going to be more kids in our town. So what I was trying to figure out is when those 2 or 3 new buildings come online, is Oxridge going to come online at the same exact time? Because Oxridge is going from, I think the number off the top of my head is like 12 classrooms to like, 22 classrooms. So it's got more capacity. They're going to move kids around. But if those two things lined up at the same time, then, we wouldn't really have a capacity issue. They're kind of close. But, in my heart of hearts, I want as many of those portables to be tossed as soon as possible and get
Got
kids
it.
in classrooms.
Thank you.
No problem.
Could you go over again what the downside is of the accessory dwelling units? When I was a kid growing up, there were a lot of teachers living in carriage houses in Greenwich, and it was the only way they could afford to teach in Greenwich because they had essentially subsidized housing from what they called carriage houses back then. I don't know what they call them now, but it sure seems like a lot of a way to get a lot of people who work in Darien to be able to live in Darien.
I don't disagree with the concept, and I kind of agree with you. And it all comes down to me, it partially comes down to money. Not all comes down to money, it partially comes down to money. To build, for argument's sake, if you're going to convert your house, your garage to an apartment, I'm guessing it's going to be 50 grand. Okay, to put in a kitchen. My wife just did a kitchen in our house and a bathroom, and it costs more than 50 grand, but I don't think you're going to build that kind of kitchen above your garage. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you can charge somebody rent of $1,000 a month, that's a 48-month payback. Okay, so it's a 4-year payback to get $1,000 a month, and you're net zero. The taxes on your house are going to go up. The value of your house, if you add another kitchen, is probably going to go up. So it's going to raise the price of your home. If me or Amy or anybody that's got a nice house on 2 acres of land, put in $100,000 garage, it's going to raise the price of your house, not lower it. If you have philanthropic ways and you want to rent it to somebody else at a low number, that's possible. But in my opinion, it's going to raise the value of housing in Darien, not lower it. If I had a house, if I was in the housing market to buy a new home, and I was in the, pick a number, $2 million bracket range, and I had a $2 million house with a garage and an apartment, and a $2 million house without a garage or apartment, I personally would pay more for the one that has the house with the apartment in it. If my daughter's going to live there, somebody's going to live there, that's fine. You can get a brand new apartment in the building behind me that is 400 units. The monthly rent is $1,800. That's it's there's other housing around in Darien. It costs market rents probably, and Amy can chime in this way if you want to. I think it's about $3.5 grand for a 2-bedroom in Darien, something like that. The numbers I've heard for Avalon, they can get $5,000 a month. You can get a brand new apartment, walking distance to the train station, on a bus line in Stanford for really low. If you're going to do it on, 2-acre housing or sites in Darien, or 1 acre, you're not near a train station. You're not on a bus line. If it's an affordable unit, do they all have cars? You have to have another car in your driveway. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand the math. If somebody has a parent who is at this or an assisted living center or a nursing where they've got a space that the economics, everybody has different ways to look at economics, and they may not get a payback for 4 years, but compared to being able to care for and have a place for an elderly parent who wouldn't have to go to a nursing home or a assisted living, which would be more expensive.
Well, there's
I-
also, isn't there also the concept of having temporary caregiver housing? Isn't that also?
Is that the granny pods? That was
Yes. Yes. So,
we studied that too. How much a granny pod costs? About
Yeah, really expensive.
$1,000 a foot.
Yeah.
You know, to build a new house in Darien, it's $500 a foot. Granny pod is about $1,000 a foot, and once he dies, you got to take it off the property.
yeah,
So
wow.
I don't know if there's a secondary market for granny pods, but I don't know. With regards to the care, I've been in that space, and my wife works at Atria. Atria's cost is somewhere between $250 a day and $300 a day to live there. So to keep the math simple, it's about, $300 times 30 days is like $9,000 a month. That's full services with nursing care. I get it. If you have mother-in-law, my mother-in-law had a nurse that lived in her house for a while. It was 20 hours a day at $20 an hour. I think it was like $500 a day for a nurse.
Mhm.
My wife's a nurse, so she took care of my mother-in-law because they fired the person that was living there. It's expensive. My mother was in a nursing home. My sister was at Waveney for a long time.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If you compare it to living in Atria or Maplewood or one of those to compare it to living in your house, the only component you're missing is the nursing care and the food.
Yeah.
It's not really apples to apples.
That would be seen to be an argument for accessory dwelling units.
We will look at accessory dwelling units. They've been asked for in our town. They're mostly on the 2-acre house lots and 1-acre house lots or larger. We've denied it. It's not in our zoning code. So we have to redraft our zoning code. Me personally, as a chairman, I'm not a fan of putting accessory dwelling units in our 1/5 acre zoning. A lot of those places only have 2 cars, and it's tandem parking. To put another apartment inside that small space is a problem. They do have them in Greenwich. I just did a deal in Greenwich, in the southern part of Greenwich, where there are accessory dwelling units and it's multifamily houses. There's cars all over the streets. You can't get in and out. It's a major parking problem. It's a block off the lower section of the Post Road, and there's cars on both sides of the street. It's not near Cascade, but you go down there and look at it. It doesn't look like Darien.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Okay. Any other questions, guys, or feedback?
There's one more thing that I did hear lately, and I wasn't at the meeting, but one of the senators that is doing is part of that team is his name's Senator Anwar. I've never met him. I think he's either East Hartford or West Hartford. I'm not 100% sure. He was the chairman of one of the Senate committees that devised some of these bills. He's not the chairman of that committee anymore. I think he's out. I also think he's a medical doctor. But in one of the talks that he gave, I think he was trying to tie affordable housing to town funding or state funding of towns. Where if you didn't do the affordable housing, you would lose some state funding. Darien doesn't get a whole lot of state funding anyway. Towards our general fund, I think we get like $400,000. But I don't think that's right either. Where that goes, I don't know. But that's why I think it's important for people like yourselves and everyone to be informed on what's going on. Because I would hate to see someone say, they're not going to fund our train station repairs because of affordable housing. They're not going to, fund our school system because of affordable housing. The one thing I can tell you where Darien sits relative to the other towns on that 7 committee list, of the items that's ever been talked about, we do probably 95% of them. The ones that we don't do are the accessory dwelling units. Other towns don't have inclusionary housing. Other towns don't have a housing trust fund. Other towns don't do commissioner training. We do, a lot of that stuff already.
Steve, can you give the group a quick bird's eye view, 30,000-foot view of how we have moved the needle on affordable housing?
Sure, it's hanging on my wall. The part about being in the office. Here we go. We did do a study last year. I think it came out in March. What's the date of this thing? Yeah, March 1st. The study was completed March 1st. In the past 20 years, is that right? Yeah, past 20 years, the affordable housing component that's been developed or improved in the town of Darien is 31.4%. We have approved 272 number of affordable dwelling units. Of that number, 231 have been constructed, which is 42%, and there's 41 in the document. If you remember earlier, I said the town of Darien has to have a 10%, or every town in Connecticut has to have 10% affordable housing. Over that 20-year period, we built 42.1%, and we have another 41 in the pipeline, so it's 31%. Darien's not 31% affordable. That's not the case. What is the case is over the 20-year time period, and it starts with Avalon in Darien. That's when this study started. Since that time period when it came to people's idea and they made wind of it, and that is December 8th, 1998. I moved into town in 1999. That's when it started. And since that, we've never taken our foot off the gas and kept doing it. That's why we did get 2 moratoriums. And while we had the moratoriums, we're building more or permitting more affordable housing. Right now, I think in the pipeline, we have 16 units at Norotan Heights Commons, 8 units at Norotan Heights Shopping Center, 14 units at the Corbin District. The Stephanonis still are supposed to build another, that's 15 units, or approved 15 units. John Vaccaro just approved another one. Penny Glassmeyer did some as part of her thing. So they're going on and on. We look at it all the time. I think to answer your question, that's the answer to your question. But
Yep, perfect.
we look at every day.
Yep. Okay. Also, can you talk about the temporary zonings that were approved for COVID with regards to the restaurants? I know we're kind of heading into a deep, cold winter, and nobody knows what's kind of on the horizon. Everybody's got some hope with the vaccine, but is there a thinking or to bridge the gap for our restaurateurs and how we can help their business?
What we did is the town of Darien, I think, was the first municipality to approve all the temporary commercial space across the state, and really even we did it before New York City did it. We extended it twice. If you guys remember, and I might have said this before, to me, COVID started on March 13th. We had it approved already by April 14th. I was adamant about stopping this temporary stuff by the 4th of July because I thought it was going to be over by the 4th of July. I was wrong. COVID's still here. We extended it once or twice through Labor Day. Now we attached our extension of all this stuff to whatever the governor says.
Okay.
Extends his stuff, we extend our stuff. So we're not behind him. We're not in front of him. If he says it's over, then it's over and the tents come down.
Okay.
The thing that we did do is we put a little bit of belts and suspenders on it, where we connected the health department to it and the building department to it and the fire department to it. I don't want to see a tent blown away in a storm or collapsing in a snowstorm. I also don't want seeing somebody at bodega putting a heat lamp underneath a tent and the tent going on fire.
Yep.
They don't have those issues in Florida. You know, they don't have cold issues in some parts of the country.
Okay.
And ours are not in the street, so you don't, we actually, they did do a little bit of moving them around for the snowplows, but not like to the extent of New York City. But we're tied to whatever the governor says.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Steve?
Steve, what's going on where the old movie theater used to be? Specifically, I'm concerned about parking back there. It's already tight. What's up with that?
That is, it's, my initiatives list has 13 things on it. The parking is one of them. The parking, the majority of that site back there is private parking. There is, the answer to the first question is, there's retail stores on the ground floor. I think there's either 3 or 4 units. One of them is Kennedy's Barbershop that's moving over. Another one I'm told is a lamp store that's going to move over. And then there's 4 apartments up on the second floor. If there were 5 apartments, it would have triggered the affordable housing item. But there's only 4, so there's not that. So you're going to get 4 apartments upstairs and it's either 3 or 4 retail units downstairs. Parking, all the parking is legal and approved. It's within the regulations. If you have, for argument's sake, a retail space, retail is about, I think it's somewhere between 5 and 10 spaces per 1,000 square feet. Amy might actually know this better because she's got her eye on an application that's in town. Apartment unit, it's like 1.5 spaces per apartment unit. So because they're putting apartments in there, the parking requirement goes from, 5 or 8 or 10 per 1,000 square feet. For the units, they need, I think, 6 parking spaces. So the parking does go down. But that parking is tied to the Darren Sports Shop, the theater, and where Webster Bank is. The other building that's in there that's not tied to it is the old Kennedy Barbershop. They have, I think, 11 or 13 parking spaces, and it's right on the other side of a, like little small brick curb.
Yeah.
One of the things I would like to see done in town, there's a couple spots where you might be able to sneak in a few more parking spaces here and there. One of them is over on Mechanic Street. That's an employee parking lot. There's a site there that if you do a little bit of site work, I think you can grab like another 13 parking spaces. It may not sound like a lot, but it's a lot because I think it's Brooks Brothers. Brooks Brothers has to buy, as part of their zoning, 9 permits in that lot every single year at whatever it costs. Brooks Brothers is not there anymore. But from where I sit, I don't have any budget. P&Z has no budget. You guys hold the money, Board of Selectmen holds the money, so I can say build a $500,000 parking garage someplace, and they say, great, Steve, you don't have the money. So what I want to do is be able to tee something up, have it shovel ready and be ready to go, then present it to somebody like you, and someone puts it forth and they say, wow, this is a great idea. You guys are ready to go? Get in a budget and make it go. So I think I tried to answer your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening, because I know you
Thank
already
you.
have so many of them booked with meetings anyway, but we appreciate you adding one more to help get us all up to speed on what we should keep our eyes on as the year unfolds. Okay?
Thank you. And if anyone wants to join one of the boards, text message. I'll put you on the squad.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
On that, do I have one last? Mike is not here at the meeting, but Mike Wheeler recommended that we have Mike give us an update on the blight committee and how things are going on that front. So I thought that would be, I'll reach out to him separately and ask him if he can give us an update on that for our next meeting. If anybody else has any other things that you'd like to see on the next agenda for February, let me know. And we'll see what resolutions come in front of the RTM that we might get assigned to, and we'll take it from there. Anything else before we go? Nope. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Mike, and seconded?
I ain't the game he second.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Thanks.
Adjourned at 8:24. Good night.